Good afternoon, all Nigerian compatriots on social media and our highly esteemed global partners. This, our second press statement on Vice President Osinbajo's errand trip to the USA, will be very brief. His visit on trying to convince the Nigerians and the world on Buhari Osinbajo's administration's, and I quote, determination to secure the country and prosper the nation, end quote. On Wednesday, June 26, 2019, Vice President Osinbajo met with his U.S. Vice Presidential counterpart, Mike Pence. While we await the full earth-shaking outcome from his errand excursions to the USA, we sense the urgent need for Nigeria to be made aware of the sad perception that Osinbajo created with the U.S. government and its implications to Nigeria and Nigerians worldwide. First, we shall make a full reference to the conclusions reached by the U.S. government on Osinbajo's submissions during his errand visit, especially as properly articulated by the former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Defense, Frank Gaffney. Secondly, we shall make reference to some local reactions, especially those of the Yoruba sociocultural group Afenifere. Thirdly and lastly, we shall make our conclusions, observations, and recommendations on the indelible perception that has been created by Osinbajo's Maradonic Buhari's errand antics in the USA. Vice President Osinbajo met with Vice President Mike Pence on Wednesday, June 26, 2019, on the eve of his departure back to Nigeria. The discussions centered on deepening relationships between Nigeria and the USA. And on June 27, 2019, the FirstNews.com reported that the former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Defense, Frank Gaffney, accused Vice President Osinbajo of lying shamelessly. Frank Gaffney probably predicated his accusation and indictments of Osinbajo on the following. 1. The address of Vice President Osinbajo to the Nigerian community in the United States during a town hall meeting in New York on Sunday, May 23, 2019. Secondly, the authentic local and international news report on Nigeria. And thirdly, the U.S. intelligence report briefings on Nigeria. According to Gaffney, Osinbajo had spoken on a number of issues, including reported cases of insecurity in the country and the government's efforts at combating them. Gaffney, however, believes that Osinbajo is economical with the truth on attacks on Christians in Nigeria. Furthermore, Frank Gaffney claims that the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari is tolerating these attacks. Continuing, Gaffney stated that Mr. Pence's visitor, his Nigerian counterpart, Yemi Osinbajo, is one of the very few Christians in the Nigerian government otherwise dominated by Islamist Fulani tribesmen. But unfortunately, Mr. Osinbajo is instead part of the problem. He continues, he lies shamelessly, including this weekend in New York, about the anti-Christian persecution his government is at least tolerating and at worst enabling. Osinbajo's own tribe has sharply repudiated him for doing so. Gaffney declared, if Vice President Pence makes clear that all persecutors in Nigeria will be held accountable and face penalties, he, Vice President Pence, may be able to prevent a major catastrophe in Nigeria on his and President Trump's watch. Now to Afenifere's response. On Tuesday, June 25, 2019, Afenifere, the Yoruba sociocultural group, criticized Osinbajo over his comment that the kidnapping stories in the country are not true, but fueled by politics. Afenifere described Osinbajo as a disgrace to the Yoruba race by his opportunistic and provocative utterances. Rising from its monthly meeting at Akure, Ondo State, the country home of his political leader, of his national leader, Pa Ruben Fasoranti, the group lamented that the region is still under siege. Afenifere attributed the attacks to Fulani herdsmen and militia operating in the zone. We are overwhelmed by reports of traumatization of our people by Fulani herdsmen, kidnappers, and militias, all across the 6 states in the zone, as well as Kwara and Kogi states. Now to our observations, conclusions, and recommendations. We observe that 1. Vice President Osinbajo is proving to be unteachable in his understanding of the American mindset, and specifically on the proper approach to dealing with the Trump administration. Secondly, we believe and observe that Osinbajo fails to understand that in the U.S., committing a crime could be a very serious offense, but worse still is lying to cover that crime. That the Buhari-Osinbajo administration is actively engaged in committing or tolerating heinous crime against humanity, which has been duly documented by the U.S. government. Thirdly, and to top it, Osinbajo has been declared by the U.S. government as a liar in covering up various forms of crime committed during the Buhari-Osinbajo administration. We therefore conclude that the open, festering, and putrid sore of Osinbajo's lying about situations in Nigeria portends an ominous sign of colossal setback for Nigeria, especially in an attempt to pursue a good U.S.-Nigeria diplomatic relationship. Secondly, we conclude that Osinbajo has become an anathema, a disgrace to Nigeria, and in particular to his Yoruba ethnicity, preferring to support the Fulanization, the radical Islamization, as well as the widespread genocide and ethnic cleansing of all indigenous Nigerians, including his own Yoruba ethnicity, by the Muslim Fulanis of West Africa. We therefore recommend that Vice President Osinbajo should immediately and seriously commence actions that will remedy his reputation as a pastor, a legal intellectual, and an accomplished senior advocate of Nigeria, as well as a sincere and generous effort at redeeming his family name and legacy. Thank you.